Hello, everybody, and thank you so much for coming today to see our honored guest, Victoria Foster Harrison, showing her work and her techniques that she's evolved over time in really specific ways. We're very happy to have you.
Thank you.
Take it away.
Thank you so much. As she said, my name is Victoria Foster Harrison, but I go by Vicky as well. And because this surface is fairly parallel to the ground and you're sitting low, if you can't see, please come up and look from behind here or stand up here for a little while, and please move around. And if you have any questions, please interrupt me. I will be probably having my focus on the hot box, and so I may not see you raise a hand. So just give me a shout and I'll answer any questions. So I am an encaustic printmaker, and for those of you that don't know, encaustic means to burn in, and it has a lot of history, Greek history, and that's a whole subject in itself. But the traditional encaustic artist in our modern world works with pots of melted wax and a brush and uses a torch between each layer. Instead, I am making original one-of-a-kind prints or monotypes. I also enhance the monotypes. And so a monotype is an original one-of-a-kind. It can't be repeated. But for casual talk, I call it a print. It's just the easiest terminology that comes out of my mouth. This is a Paula Roland hot box. Inside are incandescent bulbs, the old-fashioned bulbs that are hard to get a hold of now. But it heats this anodized aluminum plate, and this is about 170 degrees. I can touch it with my fingers, but I don't want to leave my fingers on it. But the joy of it is that I can take a chunk of pigmented beeswax and just rub it right along this hot box and make all types of shapes and lines with it. And I mean, it's just so creamy and fun to use. And what I'm going to do for my first print is that I am going to just make a crazy print. I'm not worried about composition, but I just want you to see a few different things.
Do you mind if I take pictures as you're doing this?
The question is, do I mind if she takes pictures? Please do take pictures, but maybe you could send them to me. So like this piece of wax, I don't know if you can see it, but it's rubbed against other waxes and it has another color on it, and I call that a dirty wax. But I believe that dirty is beautiful. And because when I start rubbing it against this warmed palette, right in here, if you come up close, you can see that some of that darker orange showed up. And I can crisscross over certain colors. I mean, look at this wonderful coloration. And this is a technique that is very much letting the medium have its own voice and accepting it. And it's very free-flowing. It can be a lot more controlled, but the joy of it for me is letting it have its own voice. And I'm getting some puddles here, so I'm just going to push those around a little bit. I just don't want any real big puddles. Let me grab another color. Can you all see this surface okay? And so what I can do is I can make short little strokes. I can tap it, I can swirl it, and I don't know if you can see this right in here, but it's starting to bubble up the integration of the two waxes. I love this, that it's just kind of doing its own thing. I can use the width of the wax. I can use the skinny part. I can make stripes. I can make organic shapes. It's absolutely endless. So here I have this composition that I'm not going to do anything with right now, but I am going to print it. I'm going to take, this is a sumier paper for Chinese calligraphy. And I just love this paper. I'm going to lay it on here and help the wax engage with the paper. This is one of my favorite moments. It's really an aha moment, watching everything come to life. And I'm just going to dab it to help the wax integrate with the paper. And today, when I'm demonstrating, I will demonstrate a few different techniques, and I have a whole bucket full of tools to show you what they can do. So I lift it up, and this is an original one-of-a-kind print. Again, I'm not going to do anything with this right now. If I want to be more, hi, come on in. But what I want to show you is that I also print from the underside, and I start saturating that paper. Normally I would print this wax. I prefer to have wax on paper, not in the trash can on paper towels. But for demonstration purposes, I'm going to be taking this wax and just putting it into a container, and I recycle this wax with good clean beeswax and dry pigments, and make my own waxes as well. Okay, and I'm just going to wipe it off. So I'm just going to make a field of color, something that contrasts with this. Again, I'm not going to worry about beauty and perfection right now. I just really want you to see how this whole process works. And I'm filling this work surface up with wax. And let me add another little color here. You can mix colors right on the plate. Sometimes it bubbles up. It depends upon the pigment and other reasons, and I really love the texture that happens with that. So I'm going to lay this print right back down. This is the waxy side on the top, and I'm going to let that engage with the color that's below. And you can start seeing the green is coming through wherever there was white. And I want to pass around, Debbie, maybe you could help me with that. I really want you to touch and feel these prints. So what happens is that now I've got so much wax, if I take a paper towel and start rubbing it, it's just going to move around everywhere. So I am going to take a piece of schoolhouse newsprint, or the kind of newsprint that is used for moving, and it's just kind of magical. It helps the wax from not spreading everywhere, picks up a little bit of excess wax, but doesn't pick up a lot. Okay, so this just completely transformed into a whole different print. And I can just keep, here, I'm going to pass this around, Tom. It's a little bit warm, but it should be fine. As soon as I lift up the print, it cools. I'm able to set it on my table and add the next print right on top of it, and they won't stick to each other. So let me show you. I'm just going to do a few more little prints.
What kind of paper is this?
It's a sumier paper made for Chinese calligraphy. There are lots of papers that you can use. And it's just a matter of experimentation. I even use text pages from vintage books. I use a variety of Asian papers. One of my favorite is masa. And I don't know, for my printmakers that are here in the room, other papers that you would like to use? Debbie, what?
Brown. I just use the seaming.
Yeah, and you can use brown, any type of brown paper, Asian papers. This is one of my pieces here, and the whole background is done with encaustic monotypes. And I love that it creates texture and interest, and I use my papers in backgrounds and collages. but it can be used to make florals. There, I've got a floral here. I have a lot of landscapes. The ones that are going around are landscapes, portraits, abstracts. What else? Just about anything. And again, patterns. Just, it really is endless. The one thing that I do love about it is I can walk away from it. I can go have lunch and come back, and it's still here. It hasn't dried up, which is really nice. For me, it's very, oh, look at all these bubbles coming up in here. And without going into it in huge detail, I love this, what's happening here, because when I bring wax from underneath, it'll pop through and have some really interesting textures. So let me just try another color. Do some mark making. I like to do Asemic calligraphy or Asemic writing in my artwork. I love how it's just integrating with this green.
Can you explain the meaning of that word?
Asemic is means no apparent meaning. It's a class that I've taught in the past, and it's a worldwide movement that is an old movement. I love adding Asemic, which means no apparent meaning, into my artwork. It could be a word or sentence that is just, it's scribbled, but it just has the feeling of a word or sentence. For me, I like to use words and squish them together, stretch them out, make them fat, start deconstructing them, and that's what this is here. These blue lettering is the words "tell me," and those are important words to me in starting a conversation. It's easy and fun, and people answer with something other than yes or no. So that is super important to me. This piece over here was printed on what's called Encaustic. It's a fabric that is, it accepts the wax really well. What's nice about it, it comes in 3 different thicknesses, and this is the heavy one, but it's easy to cut, it's easy to sew on. It just really expands what you can do with it. And the reason I love the Encaustic monoprints is that I can collage them, I can rip them, I can cut them, tear them, roll them, you know, whatever. Hi, Val. So let me go ahead and print this. Again, I'm just going to lay it on here and help it engage. It's just pretty magical to me. And I find this work very mindful, but also mindless, because it helps me just have my intuition bubble up inside of me. And some of this wax really beaded up and has a lot of grain to it, and I didn't expect that, and that's wonderful to me. So let me see what happens if I've got to print this. I can't waste this wax. It just goes on forever. I tell my students that my favorite saying is, doing what you love is skipping dinner and forgetting to poop. and that's what happens with this process. It just goes on forever and ever. And my husband sometimes is like, honey, it's way past bedtime. So I'm just going to scrape off this extra. Put it into my little container that I use my extra wax. And it was just a little tiny bit of wax, but by the end of the day, it really adds up. And I love to recycle that wax. The beeswax is not only precious, with the bees having trouble living, but it's expensive. So I try to use every single bit I can. I have drawers and drawers and drawers of prints to add more. So this process, The circles is done with bubble wrap. And I'm just going to add some color over here. I use bubble wrap, corks, floss, just all kinds of things. And see, even this has texture that I can't control. So I have a couple different kinds of bubble wrap, and it doesn't melt. That 170 degrees does not control the bubble wrap. So it doesn't melt the bubble wrap. So I'm just going to press it on here. It leaves a beautiful texture on the plate. It leaves wax on the bubble wrap, which I'm about to use. I can lay a print down, lay the bubble wrap right on top of it, give it a chance to melt. And while it's melting, I'm going to add another piece of paper to this right side.
Can I ask a question
Absolutely.
about how hot does that surface get?
The question is, how hot is the surface? And it's about 170 degrees, give or take 5 degrees. Some people are concerned about the toxicity of encaustic waxes, and that happens at 210. So we're not anywhere near close to it. Sometimes people get a little headache from the beeswax, and as soon as I move the air around, the headache goes away. I've only seen it happen twice. So here's the bubble wrap that it just has some wonderful texture to it. And here it is again. So let me add some color to that. What color sounds good to these? Let me do this one. It's nice, gorgeous color. There are many different companies in the US and Canada that make the waxes. R&F, Comma Pigments, Encausticos, and so forth. So I'm just going to lay this on, and I just keep enhancing it with different layers.
You put the back side up this time.
Oh, did I? Well, that's okay. And I can reuse some of this newsprint. Hopefully it won't leave wax on it, but I'll give it a try. Tom, you want to pass that around?
A question, with the bubble wrap, it's uniform on your piece, they're not uniform. Is that you just pop the ones or something like that?
Well, the question is, do the bubble wrap stay uniform or not uniform? And yes, some of them kind of pop as as you're taking it out of the packaging. Sometimes it just
Is that what happened here? Because that doesn't look uniform.
I probably was pretty careful. He's asking, this piece does not look like uniform bubble wrap. And I actually may have cut the bubble wrap so that I cut some circles out.
Right.
By this time, because this process, you can make a lot of prints in an hour. So sometimes I don't remember how I did it. And I think I'm just going to take this piece with a bubble wrap, and as you can see, I get a big mess. Okay, let's see. I use all kinds of drawing tools on here. I use pencils. This is called a big pencil from Jerry's Artorama, and it just has pencil marks if you want something that is real nice and soft. I can use oil pastels. This color doesn't stand out too much, and I can just, I'm not worried about making a final piece right now, but if I was intentional, I can really pay attention to what marks I leave on here and which tool I use. Let's try something that contrasts a little bit more, some orange. Circles are such a universal thing. I love using circles. So you can do all kinds of mark making on the pieces, and I think I'm just going to lay this piece down. This is one that is nearly finished, but I want to add a little bit more. It's a nice background. It doesn't, stand by itself in a frame, but I make a lot of greeting cards and journals with my bits and pieces. This one was a dirty piece of bubble wrap, and dirty is beautiful. Just already had the wax on it. Loving this texture. Debbie, would you mind grabbing that and passing that around? So let me try a few other tools. This is just a piece of recycled cardboard that I got out of a package. And I'm just going to try to lift up some of the wax that's already here on the box to give it a waxy surface. And it's starting to pick up. Let's say I want to add a little bit different color in there. I can just add more on my box. Try to rub it and lift it up. And this is looking like a fun little surface. I'm taking, this is a Martha Stewart wallpaper tool. I don't use, there are no rules with this process. However, I don't use metal on my metal plate. I don't want it scratched. But this adds a lot of depth and wonderful line. I love these tools. There are all kinds of tools to add texture. Okay, let's see. What else do I have here? Any questions?
Yeah, so can you after you put a layer of ink down, can you then take a stick and very lightly draw in it?
Yes, absolutely. The question is, once I have a surface of wax, can I take a stick or tool to, what I don't want to do is scratch my surface, so I probably would make a print, and then I would draw into this wax right here. And are you thinking about adding a line or subtracting a line?
Yes, I think I was thinking of subtracting, because if you then lightly drew on it, so you'd still get a pattern.
I think there's a wide variety of ways to get line. And it can be right on top of a waxy print with a whole variety of tools. But let me try a scraper and see if it will move that wax. Sometimes it depends upon how much wax is on the print. And so let me give it a try. This is a catalyst tool. It's making a very nice subtle line. You would have to come up real close to see it. But it is mainly dragging this more burgundy color.
So you would never do it on the bare plate?
Yes, I can, and I'll show you that right now. Let me show you just a few more little tools for drawing. I use the old-fashioned China marker. Some of you will remember that from elementary school days, where you pull the string to barely. She remembers too well. So you pull the string and then you rip some of the paper off. And these come in white, black, yellow, red, and blue. And they're just wonderful and creamy right on the surface. It gives a really nice line. There's an old-fashioned China marker. And then this is a Stabilo Woody. And they're just lovely and creamy. And these come in a whole variety of colors. This is a silver.
Are they like crayons or wax?
They're like crayons, they are wax. This one is a metallic silver. And it's just yummy. It's absolutely yummy. I do a lot of mark making for my textural backgrounds. And here is just a basic pencil, ebony pencil. So I can make all kinds of lines right on the waxy print. Now on the plate, the pencil probably won't do much, but I can push the wax around. Oh, doesn't that make you want spring?
Especially today.
Yeah, it's pretty cold out, isn't it?
Crocus are coming through though. Mine are.
Ah, your tulips are coming through?
Crocus.
Oh, crocus.
Yeah. Purple and yellow.
This wax is made in Canada. I do love it. So some tools will work. I really like a rubber pastry brush. And this is a dirty pastry brush, meaning it has wax on it. So I just hold it over the my paper bag trash can right here and give it a rub, which you couldn't see me do, but I was just rubbing it. Now some people will take a dirty silicone pastry brush and rub the wax right on here and just let it drip on there and see what happens. Here, I'm getting some. But it gives such a nice, good, fine line. Can you see that? Yeah, you might need to come up close.
So do you do like landscapes or still lifes or any of that kind of thing?
I do quite a few landscapes. Now, let me see if I've got anything here.
You passed one around that looked like one. Yeah, there was
Oh yeah, here's a landscape. Can you pass that? Vivian, do you want to come up and grab it? And I'll show you what I do. Landscapes are tried and true for me. I will always love landscapes. Here's a back scratcher that makes nice little circles. And that was a dirty back scratcher with navy on it, which it looks pretty nice for some texture. This is a silicone tool used for oil paint. And I can not only make a fairly wide line with it, but I can put it on its end and get a real fine line. And then I have a wide one right here, which actually has slits. And I can take that, and when I push on it, the slits kind of open up and leave this nice fine line in the middle. I hope you can see.
Does that texture come up? It's thicker up there now when you stop. So do you build up a little bit of texture on
Right.
when you lay the paper down?
Which spot are you talking about? On the tool or the paper?
Up on the
Up in this
plate.
corner, I
Up on the
think.
plate, keep going up a little bit.
Up, straight up. from
Straight
here.
up. Okay, it looks like.
Oh yes,
texture
there is
here.
a pool that she's asking about what happens when I push the wax around and there becomes a pool. When I set the paper on, it will spread the wax a little bit. So I probably will just take it and give it a little nice swoosh to kind of move that puddle around. There's nothing wrong with puddles. Ooh,
Oh, that's nice.
surprise, lots of surprises. So let me just print that.
Maybe. Is that off the dirty thing?
Yeah, it's off the dirty silicone tool. So what I wanted to show you, especially with Vivian asking about landscapes, see, I will do a lot more with this. I will definitely add more color to that. And there's a lot of very neutral colors as well. One thing that I like to do, and where is my black? It's probably hidden down here. There is something glorious about the way that cream reacts to black. And so there's different interactions between the different types of waxes. Can you see that it's, look at this texture that's happening. I'm really kind of hovering. I'm not pushing real hard with the wax.
Ooh, that's cool.
Isn't that amazing? I love this.
So they're just different consistencies of waxes that you're familiar with, so one's creamier, one's
Different amount.
waxier, one's...
The question is, are the waxes, different in their texture? And it depends upon the company that makes it, the amount of dry pigment in it, there is a Damar resin in it that helps keep the wax from being too soft. It's not necessary for printmaking, but let's see what that looks like when I print it. And sometimes you lose the texture, sometimes it stays. It also depends upon which side of the paper I use. One side is really smooth and the other side is on the rough side. So I've been using the smooth side, so I'm going to try the rough side this time. I don't know that I want to touch it too much. Maybe just a tiny, tiny bit. I had one student who made her wax so thick on the plate that when she laid her paper down, she didn't need to help it engage. So it did keep a lot of that texture. You want to pass that around?
That's nice.
That's why I love the texture of the process. Here is an example of something that's more abstract or with shapes.
Can you just print that again?
Yes, I can. I can. Absolutely.
Yeah, I would imagine that sometimes if you have a bunch of things sitting around and then you have this great look or texture or line that you can just throw something out of your pile on and go, hi, that
Yes.
needs to go on
Absolutely.
number
And
2 or
so in my studio, it becomes quite a big mess because I have so many things happening. What happened to that cardboard ring?
Right there.
That is another one. Here it is. Here's the blue. And I'll just press it right on there. Give it time to warm up and melt. Here's another shape that I just made out of cardboard, and I'll just lay that on there for giggles and kicks. And I use little tiny Dixie cups for making circles. And give it a little swirl. It doesn't look like it's picking up too well, so there's always something that doesn't work, right? Let me try a masking tape holder. There, that's becoming a little bit more.
Because it was plastic and not.
It might have been because it was plastic. I have had many successes with it before, so this is a medium that people make lots of boo-boos and mistakes because you're allowing the medium to have its own voice. And what I tell people, whether you're an experienced artist or I've had many students who have never taken an art class in their lives, and everybody is on the same playing field, and because everybody will make some crap. But everybody makes treasures as well. And, that's just a nice thing to have. And sometimes The easiest students for me are those that haven't had experience in art because they're completely open. Where an experienced artist who works maybe especially with one or two mediums, it's really great for them to let go of their preconceived ideas of everything. Here's a seashell that has a flat edge to it. I'm just going to lay those down. Let's take a look at what's happening here. That gave a little bit of texture. I think I would have liked to have had more wax on that cardboard. But you can see the texture. I'll pass that around.
Pretty colors on there though.
So what I like to do is I make what's called kitchen sink prints. And it's that they're kind of everything but the kitchen sink. There's a little bit of the seashells starting to show up. And here as well. And when I lifted it, I moved it, so it got a little crazy. But let me put some wax down. This is a gorgeous color. And see, I've got texture in the motion of the wax. I have this print that is all black and white, and I want to add additional color to it. And sometimes I don't use newsprint to help the wax engage. I just take another piece of Sumier paper because I'll have a second print. Let's see what happens to it. It's always a surprise. And for me as an artist where I started out working very, very, very tight, it's nice for me to loosen up.
What was the very tight medium that you?
Watercolor.
Oh,
So this just gives some new texture to it. But what I like to do is I take prints that I'm never going to do anything with, and I call them my kitchen sink prints. And I add more wax to them. This is kind of blah, right? I'm just going to... I'm just laying it down there. I think I'm going to take... I love this yummy green. I just have a little tiny bit left of it. This is made by Encaustic. It's a wonderful green. And I'm just moving the wax that's already around there. I am being completely spontaneous with this. I do not have an idea in my mind of what I want it to look like. But I do want to make a landscape. I'm going to add a little bit of blue in the sky. Have it reflected in maybe water or field, whatever here. Just going to add that, and I think I would like to have a little bit of some brightness. So I'm going to add some white. And I think I'd like a little bit of a feeling of mountain in the background. This is quite an intense cobalt blue. So I think I'll add a little bit of this turkey green pale and kind of soften that mountain. Just fiddling. I like to have the colors reflected in the water or the field below. Feels like it might need a little bit of a pathway coming through of some sort, a river or a pathway. I think I'm just going to have it come off the side. I can just keep fiddling with it. I can take my little silicone tool and move some of this wax around because it's getting pretty thick with the wax, and it kind of reveals some of the color below of the kitchen sink print. I might even dab it to lift up a little bit of the color from underneath. And that kitchen sink print just gives it some nice texture. Feel like it needs a little bit of warm. Let's see what I've got here. Yeah, maybe I'll add some copper. There's some beautiful metallics.
Victoria, I have a question.
Sure.
Something you said made me ask this question. When you start something like this, do you see the end result before you even start?
Sometimes I do. The question is, do I see the end result when I'm starting? And sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just let my intuition happen. I did that just now. But I also have a pile here of photographs that I took myself that I might want to make into a print. So maybe I'll try this next. If that works for you. So here is what I came up just very quickly and without any fine tuning. Gail, Debbie, I'm going to hand that to you. It's a little bit warm. So let me try this one. Now everything is backwards. You know, so if I want it to look just like this, I'm going to have to make the image backwards on the plate. Today I'm not going to worry about it. And while I'm cleaning this off, does anybody have a question about maybe some possibilities with the wax? And I do like to lay down black and then add a whole series of wine corks. And there's something about the corks that just make some fabulous texture. They are one of the reasons that the wax starts speeding up, though. Yes, Deborah?
I'm curious, the piece on the wall called Tell Me.
Yes.
All the fibers in the background, was that in the paper that you?
Yes. This part here, the question is, were the fibers already there? And yes, it is an Asian paper that I drenched with wax. So I'm going to...
Did you have the vision before you started of where you wanted?
I had a pile of about 100 prints in front of me. Yes, I did have the vision of having this as the background. And yes, I did have the vision that I wanted to do something with the Tell Me Asemic letters. I am very much a right brain, left brain person. I like the combination of organic and straight edges. And so this one has pretty much straight edges. They are torn, but they're still straight edges. And I like the combination of straight edges and organic line. That is just something that is classic for my own particular artwork. And I like the kind of right brain, left brain concept of this because it can be intuitive or intentional. Or as I said, mindful, or maybe mindless. And I like those contrasts and those combinations. So let me, ooh, that was a dirty wax, that's beautiful. Oh, I'm gonna try not to move that one around. And let me see, I think I'm gonna do a little bit more. I don't necessarily have exactly the shades of blue that I want here with me, but I've got more at home.
Just a few more at home.
Yeah, just a few more, like 1,000. So, and then I've got maybe, this is not really a strong blue in the background. I think I'll repeat this blue up here a little bit. And maybe I'll just take a paper towel and kind of rub it and let it mix that way.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and I have a kind of a creamy here. I could spend a long time fine-tuning this piece. Oh, that came out with some nice texture. I'll keep that. Let's see, I've got a couple yellows here somewhere. Nope, that's empty. So I must have a yellow somewhere here. Here we go. I think I want this yellow instead. Again, here is the image I'm making.
Is that a photograph?
It is a photograph, my own photograph, from Yellowstone.
That's a stronger yellow.
It is a stronger yellow. Again, you know, if I was going to be intentional, I would take, I only work for my own photographs, but I would take this to my pile of waxes and try to match them up. I can do color mixing on the plate if I don't have exactly what I want, but for now, this is what I've got. Let me add a little bit of orange. The orange is real strong, but that's okay. We'll get the idea. And I'm just doing some real light touches to get some texture. I'll add, I don't have a nice good deep blue, so I'm gonna try this cobalt with just a little bit of purple in it. Add that. I do have some copper, so I think I'll add that to this bottom section that has some nice texture. And I still want to see a little bit of bluish green here. So I could spend a lot of time fine-tuning this. This is just an inspiration. If I wanted it to be really close to my photograph, I would spend a lot more time making it work. For now, with the demonstration, I'm not going to worry about that. And I think I'm going to use that. Can you ask that question a little louder? I have not printed with photographic paper. I think it has a plasticized in it. I don't know. Fiber paper, there are all kinds of papers. Now this didn't come up very much like that. So I'm just going to lay it right back down on the paper and draw right into it. Yeah, I'm okay with that green right there. And add a little bit of yellow. So I can draw right on this piece, just like I did with that kitchen sink print. Let's see what I've got. If it doesn't have a lot of wax to hold it down, it will slip. So I'm going to not burn my fingers. I'm going to put a paper towel in my hand so that I can hold it down. And I'm just adding a little surface of wax. I can always remove extra wax too. Where did that nice good blue, light blue go? I feel like I wanted that in there. So the wax is finally starting to soften, more like watercolor. By the way, you can use watercolor. You can take a watercolor painting or mark making on watercolor paper and print on it. Watercolor and beeswax go really, really well together. You just can't use acrylic because the plastic and the wax do not like each other. It's not the end of the world, but it's not ideal. So I'm just adding this blue down here, and it's kind of smoothing out this area.
So if you wanted something detailed on it, some of the edges are pretty sharp on your little pieces of wax.
They are.
But you could also do it with a little brush or something towards that.
Yes, he's asking if I can soften with something other than the sharp edge of my wax. And yes, I've got things like Q-tips. And so I can just soften edges with that. There, I was able to do that right in there with the Q-tips. There are different ways. Little bits of tissue paper, you know, just a soft touch. So it makes it pretty fun. Let me try to get this down here. And I had some black on my wax, my creamy wax from doing that other exercise, but I'm loving the texture and I'm not going to change it.
Is there any time when you use a dirty wax that you don't like it because it's dirty?
Yeah, the question is if there's any time I use a dirty wax or a dirty tool and I don't like what happened when it went down, what I would do is lay another piece of paper on top and let it lift up some of the extra wax. So I'm really wanting some more of that blue, that nice good blue in here. And there's also, if you have a lot of wax on your plate and you lay your paper down and you lift it up, it will have direction of the wax. I'll try to do that. And I have a student who lays down, she makes like a blue background and she'll lay down white. I'll try to do it. And the way that she pulls it up, the wax will follow the direction of the pull. So that is a little bit changed. Okay, so let me see if I can do that wave kind of technique. No guarantee, but I'll give it a try. And that's what I love about this process, is that there really is no guarantee, and that's okay with me. It's kind of freeing to just let it have its own mind, its own voice. And I think that, Tom, I'm going to answer your question a little bit right now. This is not dirty wax, but it's really getting super full with wax. And I may or may not like that. But I want to see what happens when I lift a little bit of this wax up. See if it will reveal some of the original wax on the bottom. We'll see. Instead of being solid cobalt blue, it has some more texture to it. So let me try that white and see what happens if I can get a wave. Sometimes I have an idea in my mind and I have to try it many times. There was one image I had and it took me 12 times before I got it the way that I wanted it. I think I'm going to start with kind of a creamy color for a wave, just so it's not just white.
Victoria, is that the metal plate that you're on? Is that copper plate or what's the?
It's an anodized aluminum. If it's not anodized, it will, you lay the wax down and it just gets gummy, black and gummy. So, okay, I've got, boy, I'm loving this texture. I don't want to ruin it. But let me try this. Okay, I'm going to lay this down. There is quite a bit of wax on there. So I am going to pull my paper this way and see if it will lift up a little bit.
Yeah, wow. Looks like a wave coming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, and it has some real nice soft edges down here too. And this is letting it have its own voice. I love this texture right in here. The little kind of divots, so to speak. Let me see if I have anything else I wanted to show you. I think we're coming near the end of time. Deborah, we're doing okay?
We're almost at 2, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay, I'm going to show you just one more thing. I want to show you metallic. This is a nice, good, I think this is a homemade wax actually. But I do love this antique gold. And I'm just going to make some stripes of color.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty gorgeous. It's quite expensive, but
Oh, to get that feeling.
yeah, we're worth it.
You're doing the big closure with the nice.
Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, let's see what happens when I print it. And it helps to have that nice, good dark color underneath it.
Oh, yeah.
I should have had some newsprint on there, but, oh, there, you can see the pull on this one. Mary Lynn, maybe you can grab that and. And I'm going to have to print that again.
Definitely have to, there's wax.
I order my Sumie paper from a variety of sources. Sorry, that's my phone. I have it go off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because it kind of grounds me. When I'm in my studio, I lose track of time. It's like, oh, okay, I've got a couple more hours to work. But I order from a variety of sources. It's made by Yasutomo, and the brand, the specific paper is Aitoh. I'm sure I'm butchering the name. Aitoh. And it's a Sumie paper. I do buy it from Art Supply Warehouse, which is a store in Southern California. The reason I buy from them is because they often have sales, but they also have all 3 sizes that I like. So this print has some white wax on it. I think that's on the upside. I'm going to lay it down and see what happens. See if that white will pop up now. And as you can see, I can just go on forever. The question is, do I use thicker or more substantial paper? And yes, I do. One of them is Masa. Another one would be BF. What's the printmaking paper? BFK? BFK. But a real thin one. The thick ones, oh, now I can see the white.
Oh, wow, that's pretty.
The thin has the advantage of seeing through the backside a little bit, so you have some idea what's going on.
Yes. So I don't know. I just love that texture, and I can take a template and kind of, what's the word I'm looking at? Encase it, so I can find smaller bits. And I do have plates that are twice this size, and I have plates that are 4 times this size. But then I have to use big paper. And in those, I'm really careful about what I lay down. I mean, today I'm just being spontaneous and fun and not worrying about the result. But if I wanted to use a very large piece of paper that was $15 a sheet, I would make sure that I was really, really careful with my image that's on the paper.
That and the amount of wax you use. Right.
And the wax, yes, yes. But oh God, that looks like a print.
Maybe a little silver?
Maybe a little silver.
The gold is pretty good.
Here is I believe this is a pearl white. I don't know if I have a silver with me. And the metallics tend to be real grainy.
Is that ancient gold or antique gold?
No, I think this is pearl white.
No, I meant the gold you use.
Oh, it's ancient gold.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, a little 104 milliliter bar is $48.50.
Yeah, it's expensive and it's gone up a lot. This has tons of texture on it. And you can see it shimmering.
Yeah.
So I think that's the end. And if are there any additional questions? No? Sure.
About watercolor.
Yes.
So are you saying that I could lay one of my watercolor on watercolor paper on that and put wax on top of it?
Yes. The question is, can she have a painting on watercolor paper with watercolor paints and then lay it on my plate and add wax to it? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I've made 2 prints from here already, and I can keep going with the same colorway and have a series that coordinate with each other.
Those three, I look, I'm like, belong together, right?
Yes.
They came basically from the same start.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. They came from about the same image on the plate, on the work surface.
On your rings that you use to make shapes and things when you're on the palette, do you, after they get enough wax on them, sometimes incorporate them into your work?
She's asking if the rings, are you talking about the cardboard rings?
Cardboard rings.
Yes, the cardboard rings, do I ever incorporate this, where'd they go? Do I take these cardboard shapes and incorporate them into my collage work? I haven't yet, but it's a fantastic idea. Thank you.
Well, they get looking so beautiful at the
They do. They absolutely do. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming, and really appreciate it.
We hope you'll drop by the gallery to see Impressions, a printmaking exhibition featuring 15 wonderfully talented artists, on view from March 3rd till April 2nd.